Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Employment Committee. And a belated Happy New Year to you all. And let us hope 2022 brings a bit of positivity and good health to us all. Before I commence the formalities of our meeting, I'm delighted to confirm that we have recently recruited a new HR manager, Fran Beckett, who joins the SKDC HR team on the 21st of February from Rushcliffe Borough Council, bringing with her a range of experience to the HR team. Can I take this opportunity to thank Jane Jenkinson, Senior HR Manager, who along with her colleagues have worked tirelessly in the absence of the HR Manager for a number of months. Thanks, Jane. I'm sure we will all welcome Fran's appointment, and I, along with the committee, look forward to meeting her. We have a number of items to discuss on the agenda, but without rushing matters in hand, I hope to draw the meeting to a close at 12 p.m. today. This is to enable a planned tour facilitated by Councillor Annie Mason of the current SKDC office space at St Peter's Hill and view the space above Grantham Cinema. Thanking you in anticipation for your cooperation. Can councillors and officers please ensure your mobile phones are switched off or onto silent unless the matter is urgent. I urge also when moving around the council building, face masks still should be worn. My Vice Chairman, Councillor Anna Kelly, will be monitoring the floor for questions. The meeting is being live streamed and the recordings were retained in accordance with the Council's document retention policy. I have not received in advance any requests by non-members wishing to speak. However, I shall be following Rule 6.16.41 of the Constitution for any non-members who request to speak today, which is obviously on my discretion. I've just checked with Alice, our Democratic Officer. I understand there's no members of the public wishing to speak. Okay, if we want to now turn to the agenda, and I will move to item 1. Is there any apologies for absence?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Apologies for absence have been received from Councillor Kellogg-Cook.
Yes, thank you, Alice. I understand there's no substitution. It was first thing this morning, so we were unable to facilitate that. Okay. Moving to item 2, disclosure of interest. Are there any members who have an interest to declare before the meeting commences? Thank you. Item 3, minutes of the meeting held on the 17th of November last year. Please can you refer to pages 3 to 8 of your agenda pack. Before I go through each page by page, it has been highlighted to me that there are a considerable number of amendments that have been highlighted, and they've been discussed with our Deputy Chief Executive and Democratic Services. So these highlighted. Okay, beg your pardon. That's in relation to the People's Strategy, which is on item 6. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll go page by page and I'll look for responses. So can I start with page 3? Page 4. Page 5. Page 6. Page 7. And page 8. Thank you. Can we agree the minutes are a true and correct record of the meeting held on the 17th of November 2021, subject to the the amendments are further on in the paper, later in the agenda. Can I have a proposer for the minutes, please? Thank you, Councillor Stokes. Can I have a seconder, please? Yeah, Councillor Wood, thank you. All in favour? Against? Abstentions? Yeah, thank you, Councillor Dobson. Thank you, carried. Well, we now move to item 4 to consider updates from the previous meeting. These can be found on pages 4 to 6, starting at note 41. Okay, I have a question, probably to our Assistant Deputy Chief Executive. Were you able to discuss with the party leaders I think whether the review of the council intranet has been assigned? That was highlighted. No, it's wait a minute. I've got whether the review of the council. Oh, firstly, sorry, yeah, beg your pardon. Where the review of the council intranet has been assigned, it was confirmed that this item has not yet been assigned, but soon will be. Beg your pardon. Jane, is there any update at all?
I'm not aware of that. Possibly Deputy Chief Executive might know.
Yeah. Thank you.
So just to update you, Chairman, we've done a lot of work on the intranet. It's been rebranded and updated. So I think there's been quite a bit of work on that in the background. So it is kind of a very different look and feel to what it was kind of 2 or 3 months ago. Happy to bring some details of that to a future committee, but at the moment it's kind of more it's more of an ongoing process, and with the intranet it'll be always kind of evolving. I think that's the kind of piece of work that is.
Thank you. Councillor Mason.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. This item is actually on the work plan. It hasn't been assigned a date, but it is the intention to bring to the committee the updates that we've made to the intranet at some point in the future, but it is on the work plan to be assigned.
Thank you, Councillor Mason. Yeah, and quite rightly, in regard to the buddy system for councillors, have you had a chance to speak with party leaders, Deputy Chief Executive?
Not specifically about buddies, although we did work following the election with all the councillors. We established buddies in the office, of course. So Graham Watts, the deputy monitoring officer, agreed to act as a buddy for new councillors as they joined. But I think there's still work to do with the parties to see how they support the kind of induction, if you like, of new members into the council. So I'll continue to do that, and I'll arrange to meet the leaders in due course. So apologies for that.
Thank you. Is there any other matters in regard to item 4? Thank you. Moving on to item 5, which can be found on page 9 of your agenda pack, the pay review. Members of this committee are asked to note and endorse the scope and make any further suggestions that need to be included in the pay review. Can I please ask Councillor Annie Mason to now give us the presentation?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So the purpose of this report is to set out the proposed scope of the pay review and provide some background information, details of the issues to be considered and recommendations for the scope of the pay review. South Kesteven District Council have had different pay arrangements from the National Pay Scale since 1998, and there is no documentation or knowledge of the details of this decision or the rationale behind it. The pay structure is based on a single point salaries, whereas the majority of local government employers have grades within pay bands. This means there is no opportunity for pay progression for employees. Job evaluation for all roles up to head of service level across the council was implemented in 2004. This had an impact on the salaries budget, and the current pay structure was designed to meet affordability needs at that time. Some preliminary work on the review of the pay and reward has highlighted no flexibility within the job evaluation scheme and no options to take account of competitive market conditions. Currently, there are recruitment challenges across local government with a range of hard to fill roles. Our current pay structure and method of determining pay means that salaries for some roles are not competitive in comparison to the market and other local authorities. There are inconsistencies in pay grades, with similar roles being paid at different grades, which leads to some employees feeling they're not paid fairly for the job they do, which came from feedback from the staff survey in 2018. Addressing these inconsistencies should help staff to feel more positively about fairness and consistency of pay. Any new pay structure needs to take account of the impact of annual increases to the real living wage, which is calculated annually according to the cost of living based on a basket of goods and services. The percentage increase in the real living wage from 2021 to 2022 was 4.21%. So this report makes recommendations on some key areas to include in the scope of the pay review. These include the use of career grades to attract talent to the organisation and provide development opportunities and progression to develop and retain rising stars, a review of the lower range of pay grades, address inconsistencies between roles and pay grades by considering setting salary bands for different levels, develop a consistent process for benchmarking of roles, particularly those that are hard to recruit to. The pay review also needs to take into account the aspirations of the reward and recognition theme of the people strategy, which the Employment Committee are being asked to approve under the next agenda item. So the recommendations are that the Employment Committee are asked to note and endorse the scope and make any further suggestions to be included in the pay review. And we have Deputy Chief Executive Alan Robinson to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Mason. Have we got any questions, please, from members? Councillor Wood.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Yes, I've no problems with the report. It's just a question really on job evaluation. No, on recommended scope, paragraph 3, refer to possible job evaluation. My own experience of job evaluation, Jane will know this. My own experience of job evaluation has probably not been good, and I wondered how we go with it. I don't quite know what else you can use, but I wondered what the view is of job evaluation. I think my own personal view is you've got to be very careful with it. I'm not particularly maybe against it, but in the past I know it has caused problems and dissatisfied a lot of people. So is it the intentions we implement job evaluation, or are we doing, or?
We are using job evaluation, but I think it's fair to say that it doesn't always work for us, you know, in terms of the salaries in the market. So they're not necessarily competitive with the market. So what's being recommended in the report is that we use job evaluation alongside other means of determining pay, such as benchmarking and using some of the tools that are available to do that.
A note of caution, really. I've been involved when we've done like mass job evaluation. I don't know whether, and sometimes it hasn't gone well, so it's got to be carefully done. That's what I'm really saying. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you want to come back on that, Alan? Thank you.
Yeah, so like in common with Councillor Wood, I've been through the process of full organisation job evaluation. It's really painful, takes a long time, it's really costly, and that's not what's being proposed here. It's trying to find a hybrid between getting that fairness, which is best measured through you know, treating all the jobs and the roles the same way, but also recognising that in some areas the market will influence the level of remuneration that are required in order to attract and retain our key staff. So it's kind of going to have to be a hybrid. I don't intend, or the current intention certainly, is not to go through a full job evaluation review, because, well, you know, they just take years and ultimately cost a lot of money. So that's not something that we have either the time or the resources to do. So it's just trying to find some pragmatism.
Yeah, I've got Councillor Stokes and Councillor Kelly is it on the same subject? I'll go if we, Adam, if you can come after Anna, appreciate that, thank you.
I just wanted to know for clarification, are we intending to continue our own individualised rationale for payments to people, or is there an overall industry well-known system by which we're going to adopt, or are we going to continue on this individual thing? Thank you.
So it's a really interesting one because every council has different sets of bands and grades now. None of them have the old-fashioned grades, so everyone's different. But the difference that we have is that we're not in the collective bargaining, really. So our terms and conditions can flex away, not just money, but other terms and conditions can flex away from what the national, is it still the Green Book? The Green Book says. So instead of all those details, so it's not a standard set, so it gives us that flexibility. So not really an intention to do that, but there are. Each council uses the kind of standard terms in the Green Book in a different way, and some will do it better than others and give those opportunities. So there is a way of looking at how we best get this in an affordable way. Get that clarity, that fairness, and everything we can do to say recruit and retain the very best staff. So there isn't intention to rejoin the collective, but interesting with collective bargaining and the joint agreements. I think always follow. I'll be proven wrong. The pay increases that are negotiated nationally by the employer side and the trade unions working together. So we, in essence, we do follow the national scheme for that, and particularly for pay. But it's just we have our own pay points. And it's how, and to be honest, there is the spinal column points that all councils, or a lot of councils use, but they use them. You wouldn't find, somebody who does my job in one council maybe get a different amount at another because of the size, the market, all those things. So everybody kind of uses those grades in a different way anyway. There isn't that much consistency across the sector.
I noticed a new movement in Eastbourne with their waste staff that came. That's why I asked the question. Yeah.
Thank you, Councillor Kelly. Councillor Stokes.
Yeah, you're returning to pay grades. I know that we've got 43 separate pay grades on page 11. What's the average in local government? Do we know, roughly? I know every council is different.
So it depends where it is, but if I use my most recent example, there were 12 bands. Within each of those bands, there would have been a number of incremental points on the spinal. So you would say 3 or 4 incremental increases, either based on performance or time served, depending on how the council or that particular job works. But yeah, and I think that's probably above that. Most people do have kind of spot points for senior appointments. But yeah, in the general scheme of things, it's, so I would say 12's high. So it's kind of, and certainly, 43 is.
Councillor Dobson.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I have 2 questions. On item 2, in this, the issues to be considered, the real living wage for 2022 increased to £9.90. Do we support this? Because I'm a little bit confused here when it goes on to say who employers who are signed up to the real living wage. So are we signed up to that real living wage as opposed to the national living wage? I know it's not much difference, but it probably makes a lot of difference to people on low pay grades.
Yeah, thank you. If you want to come back at that, Alan, thank you.
All right. So thanks for the question, Councillor Dobson. Yeah, you agreed at full council, I think in March, was it the budget council last year, to increase to follow the real living wage for staff. So that's been adopted and is now in place. And the impact that has on our lower paid members of staff, it can be significant. But what it does present us with a problem is the kind of differential between those staff as that grade goes up quicker than the annual inflationary interest, and that it increases. So that is something that is we know we need to look at. That is an issue for us. because it's that differential. So if you're doing one job and you're a supervisor, your operative gets nearer and nearer to your salary as we go through the year. So that is a challenge for us, but it's not something that we're unique in. I think that's something everybody's trying to wrestle with at the moment. And back to Councillor Kelly's point, this is where we have the perfect world. We can take advantage of some of the work that's going on nationally in the sector, whilst not actually signing up to all the terms of conditions they have, because it's something that's been reviewed right across the country.
Thank you. And my second question, if I may, then, Madam Chairman, we've got item 2.10. We have the council has a night working additional payment agreement, which is equivalent to 1 hours of work. So that reflects on the pay scale of that particular person. Nighttime working is, if it's occasional, is really, I think, probably quite damaging to the mental health of some people. So I'm just wondering whether is that something we wish to continue with, as if it is a minimum paid person, £9.90. If he gets £9.90 for staying up all night to work for us, is that enough? And is there a better way of doing that? And are we looking into that? Thank you.
Who wishes to come back on that? Thank you, Jane.
Thank you, Councillor Dobson. It is something that has been raised by those employees that are working nights. We have very few that do that. It tends to be in CCTV, and it is something that we do intend to look at as part of the pay review.
Yeah, if I could just come back on that. Thank you, Jane. I completely agree with you, Councillor Dobson, and particularly CCTV. You have to be so vigilant, because really what we're looking at is any nighttime crime, etc. So yeah, I picked up on that point reading the agenda. I think it is quite important, and 1 hour, £9 plus doesn't really cut it as far as I'm concerned. Thank you. And if there's anything we can do to improve this, I would appreciate it. Thank you. Councillor Kelly.
I think it's worth saying that I don't think we should undersell ourselves. We do offer lots of things that are not monetary rewards for working for this council. And I think we need to be explicit about all the things that people are getting that in other roles they may not be getting, e.g. free parking, or perhaps a discount at our leisure centres or something like that.
Yeah, no, I understand. And also, I think we've got, we've discussed in previous meetings about our flexibility for home working and working in the office. I think, that is very much understood, and very grateful for that, I am sure, as employees of SKDC. Thank you. Do I have any other questions in relation to this item? Okay. Thank you. Right, if I can, obviously we've considered the update. We've considered what's in this document, and are asked to note and endorse the scope. We've made suggestions in relation to the pay review, and I'm sure they'll be noted and looked into. Thank you. And I also like to thank those who prepared the presentation on the pay review scope. Thank you. Moving on to item 6 on the agenda is the people strategy. And for this to note, this strategy sets out the council's aim in attracting, developing and retaining our most valuable asset, our employees. Please note that this new strategy replaces the previous people strategy for the period 2017 to 2020. Following this presentation, members of the committee will be asked to recommend to Cabinet that the people strategy 2021 to 25 be approved. Can I please ask you to turn to page 15 in your pack, and I will now hand over to Councillor Annie Mason to deliver the presentation.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. quite rightly what you've just said, the secret to success lies with our most valuable asset, our employees. So investing in our talent to create a strong workplace community that supports its staff and recognises the unique attributes of every team member is what we strive for. And as such, a draft people strategy has been produced for 2022 to 2025. The people strategy sets out our approach to attract, develop and retain our employees and shows where we are now, where we want to be and how we intend to get there. Once the strategy has been approved, an action plan will be developed to enable us to achieve those aspirations. South Kesteven District Council commits itself to the development of existing and future staff members. Each member of Team SK makes an invaluable contribution to the district and its residents. And with this strategy, we can help all our employees understand the value of their efforts and how to access the support they need to maximise their potential. The people strategy focuses on the key themes of recruitment, which is attracting the right people to our organisation, development, training, developing skills and creating high-performing employees and teams working towards the council priorities. Engagement, strengthen our employee engagement, creating an inspired workforce. Diversity, recognising the benefits and strengths that having a diverse workforce brings. Reward and recognition, attracting and motivating our people, and well-being, creating a safe and healthy work environment. The core values are focusing on accountability, which is taking ownership of actions and decisions at all levels, flexibility, so that's working in different ways, different times, different places to support the needs of our residents and businesses, agility, working together with the best use of skills, equity, treating each other with respect, networking, which is embracing the views of others, always learning, so sharing knowledge, skills and expertise to enable the council to go from strength to strength. Talent, harnessing the incredible ability that is within the council and valuing the contribution that everyone can make. It is intended that this strategy will be reviewed annually and aligned with the agreed corporate plan actions and key performance indicators. So we're asking the Employment Committee to recommend to Cabinet that the people strategy is approved. Some minor alterations to the people strategy document have been received from the Chief Executive and the Vice Chairman since the draft was published. These will be added to the document together with any feedback from the Employment Committee today. These amendments do not change the meaning of the content of the strategy, but it does enable it to read better. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Mason, and I appreciate that there are amendments that need to be carried out to the document. However, as you say, it doesn't change the meaning of the document. Thank you. Can I ask if there are any questions, please, from members? Councillor Dobson.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Yeah, I'd just like to say this is a very detailed report and item. Was that prepared in-house? All of it? Sorry.
Yes, the people strategy was developed jointly by Sam and myself, and then our internal comms team have done the fantastic job of bringing it to life.
Sorry, excellent piece of work. So congratulations. What I would like to ask is, though, I've lost the page now where it was, but it's, you know, ensuring that staff have, I think, yeah, where are we now? Development of staff, high-performing individuals and teams. And that, I'm sorry, is that not on? Oh, the other one's on. Is that all right? Yeah, I'd just like to, I have seen plans for new refurbishment of where we're going to house our people. And I would like to point out that I think the plans that I've seen show people actually very, very close together in very regimented forms. And I don't think that is conducive to good working atmosphere. You know, when we've got some of our areas at the moment where we've got that, people aren't in there all the time. But as we are sort of going to be hot desking, as I understand, it would be better to make sure that those areas were had the feeling of a space for people to work. I think they work better when they're not crammed next to each other and overhearing various calls and so on. But that's just my added thought to this that I thought wasn't in there. But that's.
Thank you, Councillor Dobson. I understand Alan wishes to come back to you.
Yeah, thanks, Councillor Dobson. So the world we're in at the moment, obviously, is we're still in a guidance to government saying work from home if you can. But what we've learned so much over the last 2 years about how it's best to work and how important. Actually, we know what we've missed in terms of that kind of that face-to-face contact and in-person meetings that we're now getting as you know, in the committee in the formal cycle, but that our staff are missing out on. So we know what's really important, but we also know what's possible in terms of agile working. And so whatever we do in the future, however we work in the future, we need to continue to do, you know, continue to take advantage of the opportunities we've got, but recognise the importance of being a team and making sure that we continue to be, as Councillor Mason says, Team SK. So there's lots of those things that we need to consider. Then you design your accommodation around those needs, don't you? I mean, at the moment, you know, we just need to work out how we get our people who need to be back. We've got a clear principle set that business comes first. Business comes first, always. So, and then it comes down to that individual need and then requirements. But I think the business needs people to work together sometimes, but it doesn't need them to work together all the time. It's better for the environment, it's better for them. And we talked about recruitment and retention. That flexibility is one of those key tools, one of our key bits of our armament in terms of getting and keeping the right people. So got to be, you know, flexible about that without now setting out any clear way of where we're going to work. But yeah, I mean, we certainly, I think I'll be honest with you, whatever happens with our organisation, the days where everybody has a desk with their photograph on it are probably behind us, but that's probably the same across every industry right now. You know, those you know, I think everybody's reflecting on how it's best to work in this new world. Hope that answers that.
Thank you. Councillor Kelly?
Can I just say, I do have some understanding of what Councillor Dobson is saying there. I've worked in situations where people hot desk. They don't feel they belong sometimes. They don't feel that anything that they own has a place to be. And so sometimes you can alienate people from your organisation by putting them in hot desk situations. I could be provocative and say, how would you find it? I understand that, you know, it is flexible, and in these times when we are battling with things like COVID, we need to be aware of the high intensity of cleaning that will have to go on if you are going to move people between various desks, and I think that has to be noted. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Kelly. Anyone else? More questions, comments? Yeah.
You love it, go on.
Yeah. Go on then.
So first of all, yeah, absolutely. I've been hot desking for the last 10 years, so that's fine. I recognise what you say about the cleaning regime, and I think the key to this is, if you want to maintain the culture and the team, the key is to really make those contact points when we are together really pay. So we are concentrating on that when we're together. We're concentrating on being a team when we're together. We're not concentrating. I can see no value in the terms we talk about of me sitting next to somebody independently, just working on our computers and not talking to each other. We've got to make those contact points pay and make sure they're used for making people feel part of a team and making sure everybody engages in that. There are lots of logistics around our, you know, working in an agile manner, but we've learned so much over the last 2 years. I think we're in a really good space to make it effective going forward and to keep the culture and the efficiencies and still allow flexibility for our business and our staff.
Just to say, I didn't want the battery hen type of layout to offices. You know, this is what I think is wrong.
I think what's coming across, which is key, is communication. As long as we all keep communicating to each other as managers and directors, etc., that's the most important. I think as human beings, we are adjusting to our situation. It's not always easy, but we are adjusting to the best of our ability. Thank you. Do I have anything else on this matter? Yeah, Councillor Mason.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Just to say really that the work that the team has put into this is absolutely incredible, and it is a fantastic document. So I want to thank Alan and the HR team and everybody that was involved. Thank you.
Yeah, and I echo those comments. Thank you. Okay, yeah, councillor.
Thank you, and I agree that there is an awful lot here. I was just interested as a participant in this to know, in terms of page 13 of the document, which is 31 on the sheets that we were given, it says, and the very final sentence, support the setup and development of the Equalities Champions Group. And I was just really interested to know how we would do that and who can do what. I just wondered what the vision was in the head for that to happen.
Yeah, Jane, if you want to, are you able to reply?
Thank you, Councillor Kelly. I don't know a great deal of detail about the Equalities Champions Group, but I know that is something that is in progress at the moment, that has been set up. So they're right at the beginning of that journey.
Yeah, I understand Councillor Mason can give us an update. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So we've identified equality champions across all different service levels to make sure that equalities are championed within that service level. So Carol Drury has already commenced the training for the equality champions in each service level. So that is something that we are developing and championing throughout the organisation. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Mason. Do you have any idea how much time is invested with this?
What, with the training, or I think Carol's done 2 full days of training so far for the equality champions. It's around about that, isn't it, Alan? Yeah, and then obviously it's ongoing, so I don't know the amount of time that would be invested ongoing for them to work on it, but it's hugely important to the council to make sure that we have got these champions in place.
Thank you for that. Do we have any other questions? Do you want to come back on that, Alan?
Just quickly to add to it, really. So I always think that these kind of things are a bit like the health and safety, but not as mature in the way that we do it. So it's typical, isn't it, that we all take responsibility for our own health and safety. We do that naturally, and we know to do it because it's been around for 30, 40, 50 years. We've always done it. Things like this need to be embedded in the same way. And the idea of the champions is that it's not just one person to do it, because we can all very easily just go, oh, that's that person's job, because they can sit there in a corner doing the equalities, diversity and inclusion work, and we don't have to worry about it. So what this is around, isn't it, is to get that. So there's a team of people and they're inspiring their own teams in their service areas to really kind of understand this is part of the day job. Just as, you know, looking after your own health and safety is, you know, it's part of your day job, and we all need to be doing it, and we should be writing our reports without the need for an equality impact assessment, actually, because we've done it naturally and therefore it's in the report.
Thank you. If there are no other questions, could I ask, please, for a proposer for the new people strategy, please? Councillor Adam Stokes, thank you.
Yeah, I'm happy to propose, but I will have to amend it because it is 22 to 25, not 21 to 25 in the as recommendation. The people strategy.
Yeah,
So
no.
I'll propose that with that amendment into that.
Yeah, okay. So can I have a seconder with that amendment, please? Councillor Barry Dobson, thank you. Have I got any abstentions? No. Yeah.
So we discussed earlier, members, that there were some changes, that some kind of typographical, some grammar, some improvement in the layout and the information presented without fundamental changes. So normally in a situation like that, we would have a recommendation, additional recommendation, to say that we have delegated authority to myself or to one of the other officers to work with. I would suggest Councillor Mason or the chairman, or perhaps both, to agree this once those have been done. I wonder if members will be be happy to endorse that approach so that we can then do these kind of either housekeeping changes or slight amendments.
Chairman, I'm happy to include that as a second recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Stokes. And I can't remember, did I get to a seconder? Councillor Barry Dobson. Thank you. Can I have a show of hands, please? Thank you. That motion, that is carried forward to put before Cabinet. Thank you, with the amendments. Moving on to item 7 on the agenda is the pay policy statement for 2022 and 2023. Members of this committee are reminded that this is a requirement of the Localisation Act 2011 that the council produces an annual pay policy statement. The statement summarises current policies and arrangements already in place relating to pay. Pay policy statement is approved each year by the council as part of the budget setting and approval process. Please can I ask you to turn to pages 51 and Councillor Annie Mason will now provide an update. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. As you've quite rightly stated, the council is required to produce an annual pay policy statement, which must be approved by full council before the end of March each year. So following a review of the 2021-22 statement to ensure compliance within the requirements of the Localism Act 2011, we have identified there have been no fundamental changes. It is a statement of fact and meets the statutory requirements placed upon us. The key changes include updating of the posts included under the definition of officers covered by the pay policy statement and changes in the statutory national minimum wage, national living wage and the real living wage rates. There is a requirement to include information relating to the council's policy for the remuneration of its chief officers, its lowest paid employees and the relationship between these. In addition, the pay policy statement provides details of the chief officer's pay and sets out its policy for determining pay, including that of apprentices. The pay policy statement includes the council's policy on allowances, pension scheme contribution rates, termination payments, re-engagement of employees and gender pay reporting. The review of pay and rewards that is referred to under paragraph 8.11 of the statement has already been discussed under item 5 of today's agenda. So the report is asking the Employment Committee to agree that the pay policy statement for 2022-23 can be submitted to full council for approval on the 3rd of March 2022. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Mason. Can I have any comments, please, or questions? Councillor Wood.
Yeah, yes, Madam Chairman. As I mentioned earlier, I'm on the termination payments on page 64, it's paragraph 13. I'd just like to make it quite clear and add an amendment to paragraph 13.1 to actually state that termination payments should be kept to a minimum and demonstrate that they are in the best interest of the council. Now, I know that's probably what we do, and Alan Robinson says that's what we do, but I would like that included to make it quite clear where we stand. So I think people know what we mean by it. I'm conscious that this document is going to full council next week. And I think with that insertion, I'd be happy to second that pay policy with that. But I would like that, if anybody would be prepared to second that, I'd like that extra sentence included, please. I think it makes sense. It makes it a bit clearer, really.
Councillor Kelly.
Can I just say, I would be happy to second that on the basis that it makes it very clear to everyone who is at council that it is a very tight process and we are always working in the best interests of spending the money that our district people are putting into this system. I don't want it to go forward with anybody thinking that this has just been lightly brushed over. And I think that if we add that sentence, it makes it very clear to anyone who may consider that we look at this lightly, that we haven't. We really have looked deeply. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Kelly. Could I ask you to respond, please, Alan Robinson? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So I think what Councillor Wood's describing is writing in here what actually happens. And with that, in that respect, that's fine. So where there are any termination payments, I just want to make it really clear. There's a clear business case for everyone. They're written up. There's an audit trail to show that. And the final decisions are reviewed by the 3 statutory officers of the council. So that being the head of paid service, the section 151 officer, and myself as the monitoring officer. So that's always done, as you say, in the best interest of the council, because we've got a legal duty to do everything in the best interest of the council, as you would imagine, as the custodian of public funds. So happy, it's not for me to decide, but I don't see any issues with that in terms of the way we already work. And it's just writing down in this document what we already do, Councillor Wood. So yeah, that's as far as I can see. We've got obviously the opportunity still to make the amendments to this prior to full council, if that's what the committee wishes us to do.
Councillor Mason.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I'm quite happy to work on the actual document itself, on the pay policy statement itself. It is under point 13, isn't it, where we have got several different paragraphs of latent termination payments. So we could have a look and make it clearer and spell it out a little bit more. I'm quite happy for us to do that.
Yeah, how about the wording? Is that something to be discussed after?
I think, as Councillor Mason says, we understand the essence of what Councillor Wood says, and if with his looking to him, but if he was happy for us to try and put those into words that fit into this document, myself and Councillor Mason, rather than kind of pin ourselves down to some words that we make up on the spot here now, so that we've got something that's sensible and means and you're comfortable with, Councillor Wood.
I mean, I'm just looking for some wording like that to make it quite clear, so that we can go forward with it to full council, really, and that I can support it, we can all support it. So yes.
Thank you for your comments, Councillor Wood. Yes, we seem to be all in mutual agreement. So unless there's anything further to add, I'll go to the vote with that discussion. Okay. So we have a proposer in Councillor Wood and a seconder in Councillor Kelly. So if we could move to the vote, please, all in favour? Unanimous. Thank you. Okay, that motion, that is carried prior to being approved by Cabinet. Thank you. We now move to item 9, the work programme for 2021 to 2022. This can be found on page 67. Does any committee members have any questions or additions to the work programme? Councillor Mason.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. So for the next meeting, we've got the pay review, the Chief Executive's appraisal and the gender pay gap report. Chief Executive's appraisal, get my teeth in, is also listed on the second page, Chief Executive appraisal, annual appraisal. I'm not sure whether we're just keeping that on there because it's annual, because it does say items to be allocated, but of course we've allocated it for March. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It just needs to be in March. It doesn't need, it's been allocated. And I think, to be fair, we're into an annual process now, aren't we? So I just think once we get past March, it'll be allocated to next March. So that's the way I would want to play that. So we're starting to build that programme of work, the standard work, things like the pay policy that we've just done, into a programme that we know about it way in advance, which will be really helpful for the administration of the committee and so members know what to expect as well.
Thank you, Councillor Mason. Thank you, Alan. Any other comments on the listed items? Shake of head. No, I'll take that as a no. Oh, Councillor Kelly.
I do think at some point, because there is such an amazing amount of work that's going to have to be done on setting up the structure of payments, I think you might want to ongoingly report about that. throughout the year.
Do you want to come back at that, Alan?
My initial thoughts are March looks really quick for the amount of work we've just discussed for the pay review. And maybe we can provide regular updates, probably quarterly or or something like that, so you can see the progress that we're making, rather than try and do something in too short a time and not get the job done properly. So I think we've also got to bear this in, put this in line with the budget process, because there could potentially be impact on that. So I think it's probably ambitious to say we'll have done more than ambitious to say that that'll be completed in 6 weeks' time when we meet again. I just don't think that's a realistic outcome. So I think that's something that members may wish to kind of take an update then to see what progress has been made, and then decide how regularly, the frequency they want to be updated on progress.
He says it all so well.
Thank you. Reassurance in bucket loads. Thank you. The final item on the agenda for today's meeting is any other business. If you have any other business, please raise your hand. Positively racing through. No, there seems to be no hands raised. Final opportunity. Any other business? I feel like an auctioneer. Thank you. So thank you everyone for attending today, and I would particularly like to thank those officers and members for their updates and reports. I believe our next scheduled employment committee meeting is Wednesday, the 9th of March 2022, back here in the council chamber. I'm looking at you, Alice. Thank you. Thank you for your attendance today. Obviously, we're short of 11 o'clock, but if you're making your way home, have a safe journey. And I understand we're meeting in the members' lounge for 12 noon for the tour of the buildings, as discussed.